Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 meeting of the Finance, Budget and Personnel Committee. First item on the agenda is identify potential conflicts of interest. You've seen the agenda. Does anybody there have any conflicts that you want to talk about or you want to hold out on or identify? If not, I'm going to identify on the last item on the agenda. The last item on the agenda is the request to recommend the council approval of the 2021 contract for the Marshfield Job Center. As a county supervisor, I sit on the CEO council that approves that contract on the other side. So I'm going to ask the council's permission to recuse myself from that. I'll ask Vice Chair Spiros to handle that when it comes up. Okay? Anybody have any objections to that? Okay, thank you. All right, next up is citizen comments. We have no identifiable civilians in the audience. Everybody here is in the service of the city. So we'll pass on that. Next up is the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda is the minutes of the December 1, 2020 regular meeting, a report of personnel actions and bills and payroll. They're before you. What's your pleasure? Motion to approve. Okay, who is that? Oh, Nick. And first by Nick, second by Tom. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. And it is unanimous. Consider there are no items removed from the agenda. The next item is the request to recommend the council approval of budget resolution number 7, 2020 as amended, transferring $20,000 from the Airport Capital Outlay Fund for the purchase of a credit card reader for the Marshfield Municipal Airport. Ron, you got this?
Yep, I've got the next four, it looks like. Thank you. This is just a correction of an account number error. So Jeff Geyer from the airport, when he presented everything, was correct. The source of the funds is the same. The use of the funds is the same. The memo indicates that the budgetary account should have been 415-43,033-3300. So just looking for approval to amend it so that we can make the adjustment to the correct account.
Okay, I have a motion by Wetzel to approve, I take it?
Yep.
Is there a second? Second by Paschal. Discussion? Ron, did they talk to you about, evidently there's going to be another alteration to a cabinet out there, they're going to need more money? Or no, going to need to allocate more, I think?
Nope, I have not heard that.
There's a meeting on Thursday. There's a meeting scheduled on Thursday, so I think you'll probably be hearing something about that. But I think since this just changes the account number, I think we're okay, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes, and the motion carries. Number 7 is request to recommend council approval of resolution 2020-58, writing off certain delinquent ambulance accounts in the amount of $32,000. And Ron, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Amy Van Wy usually handles this one, but she's unable to be here today. So as you know, LifeQuest does our EMS billing services, and each year they present us with a list of uncollectible accounts that they identify as being old or people hard to contact. So this is an accounting write-off. So we don't believe it meets the requirement for an account receivable on our books, but that doesn't mean we stop collecting for it or, keep up the collection process. We just want our accounts receivable amount to be fairly stated. So as the memo states, in 2019, the last full year, we had almost we had a little over $2.7 million in billing, and we're asking to write off $32,000 on the accounting side. The comparable number from last year was $31,000, and it's been pretty consistent over the last several years.
Before you, what's your pleasure? Motion by Paschal, second by Handler. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up, item number 8, request to recommend council approval of resolution 2020-59, approving committed fund balance classifications for continuing operations for the fiscal year 2020 to be carried over into 2021, presented by Ron Alman. Ron, go ahead.
Right, thank you. Continuing appropriations, or carry forwards, as they're sometimes called informally, we have a two-step process. So what we do at this time of the year is we estimate the amounts that need to be carried over, and it's actually a part of our reserved fund balance. And if you look at the memo, there's typically 3 categories. One is the library is a statutory requirement. So basically we add up, for lack of a better term, their profit or loss each year compared to budget, and we reserve that amount in fund balance. So that's a statutory calculation. And then we usually have some items that are multi-year projects or just one-time requests for things that were unable to be completed in 2020 that'll be carried over into 2021. So the largest part of the carry forward, the elective ones, are just the wrapping up of a couple of our IT projects, our electronic document management system, our EDMS, our major scanning project, and then our enterprise business software, which we are getting close to implementing January 1st for Kronos and Munis. So the total is $183,000. And if you look at the third page of the memo, it's slowly declined as it should. You know, as the IT projects wind down, that should go down. And we generally try to limit any requests here. So take any questions or look for approval of $183,134.05 of continuing appropriations.
I believe that's a motion by Wetzel.
Yes.
And a second by Spiros. Okay, in discussion? Ron, I'm curious, these are classified, like you said, are these listed as unspendable or reserved, or how do you reclassify them?
They're classified as reserved fund balance. I think I'd have to actually look at the classifications. I'm not sure if it's, I believe it's one of the categories of unspendable, non-spendable.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, I see an aye from Ms. Spiros, an aye from Mr. Handler.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And that passes unanimously. Okay, next up is request to recommend council approval of 2021 insurance policy renewal. Ron, you still got the floor.
Still going. All right, so thank you. In your packet, you find a cover memo from myself and then the detailed proposed information from Spectrum. Daryl Zaleski presented last year as our agent. As you look through it, you'll see that the largest increase is due to a workman's comp increase. So we have an experience modifier that rates our payroll, the amount of payoffs, and that increased from 0.86 to 1.09. So without context, essentially, the expense we've incurred through our workman comp policy has increased pretty significantly. The largest part of what's going on there is we have a pretty large claim in our fire department from a staff member who injured himself on some ice, and we've had a pretty large continuing payout as that individual works to recover. So that's what's causing the largest increase here. Again, these are the proposed amounts. What we're doing over the rest of the week is Pam in our office is looking through all the property and automobile listings. We do it throughout the year. We just want to make sure that there's nothing on the property list or the automobile list that's listed as insured that we may have disposed. So she's still working through that. So I do have the prior year. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's what I was looking for. So the workman's comp does kind of jump around. And I make a note there that if I exclude this year, if I exclude the most recent years, it's a little bit lower than average, but it is spiking up pretty noticeably from 2020, which was a low year. So at this point, I'll take any questions.
Can we get a motion on the floor? Motion by Wetzel, second by Spiros. Okay, now, discussion? Ron, that's a pretty hefty increase. Have we got that budgeted? Did we know this number when we were going into budget?
No, this is one of those, we kind of take an average of the past years and add 3%, and then the actual, it was really tough to predict.
Okay,
We do get a rebate through Spectrum that usually is about $70,000 each year that kind of offsets some of this.
and do we have, I guess the other question I've got is, do we have people who are working on loss control? I mean, do we, to try and deal with keeping our workman's comp down and things like that?
Sure, and I think Jen or Steve can talk about maybe a little bit more, but we do have a company called MEUW that works with us on our safety, as far as policy and practice and those kind of things. So I know we do work to keep it to a minimum, but this is basically one slip and fall case that's driving the rate here on the workman's comp at this time.
And I guess just, what was that last question? Oh, the other one that went up was boiler insurance, but like 20%. Was there a reason for, do you know any reason for that, or?
No, I can follow up on that part, but.
Yeah, maybe you can let us know at the next meeting.
Yep.
All right, I appreciate that. Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor to approve the insurance payments. Insurance, no. Oh, excuse me, yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Real quick question for you, Ron. You say in your memo here that the average renewal from 17, 18, 19, and 21 was 382, and we're looking at approving 359, which is actually on the lower end of that average. So, you know, we often hear rates just keep going up and up and up, but we've actually seen some decrease over time as well. So 2020 was if I remember correctly from a year ago, pretty good drop. So we're just kind of bouncing back a little bit back to where we had been.
Correct, and I wish I would have put it on the chart here, but from 19 to 20, our overall premiums decreased in total. But you're exactly right.
Okay, and so I would imagine if you're kind of estimating for budgeting purposes, taking an average of several years, that we're not going to be that far off because the average would have been higher with those higher years.
Correct, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I have Spiro's aye, I have Hendler aye, I have Whittle aye. And then
Facial.
you too, Nick? Okay, thank you. The motion carries unanimously. And, request to, request to recommend council approval to refill a vacant police officer position created by retirement. And Pat, you get the floor this time.
All right, thank you. Yeah, as some of you may know, Officer Steve Meek retired from the department on November 4th after 29 years, excess of 29 years of service. So with that, we are seeking to fill a replacement for him. I did go before the Police and Fire Commission at the November 11th, 2020 meeting, at which time they approved to refill his vacancy. Just a little bit of background, our patrol division runs with 4 shifts that provide the 24-hour coverage. They're comprised of 6 officers and a lieutenant. And with that, you know, there could be anywhere, we typically don't allow any more than 2 officers off, so our minimum staffing ideally is a shift commander and 4 officers. So to accommodate things such as sick leave, vacation, comp time, we really like to stay at that lieutenant and 6 officer. It also allows us the ability to make sure that we have enough resources to cover all the calls, plus do the self-initiated activities that are expected of us. So with that, we've had a shift running at below minimum with a lieutenant and 5 officers. And really that creates a burden on the shift, which sometimes can impact our response times, our ability to respond to things in a thorough and efficient manner. So we did budget for this position in 2020 and 2021. And as you may recall from one of the last meetings, Officer Meek was on a relatively extended leave of absence, and the city had granted him further leave. So with that, he took it upon himself to go the road of retirement. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions and would look for your approval to refill his position.
Is there a motion on the floor? Mr. Paschal by first, Mr. Hendler second. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 I have unanimous. The motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the request to recommend council approval to refill vacant administrative associate 2 position in the clerk's office. And that would be the super city clerk, Deb Hall, giving us that.
Thank you, Chair. Jan has given me her notice that December 31st will be her last day. She was an excellent employee with great customer service skills. She will be greatly missed by everyone. The Administrative Associate 2 position is a part-time position. The Clerk's Department is a small department with 2 full-time and 2 part-time positions. So each position plays a vital role in the operation of this department. On the memo that is included in your packet, I have listed some responsibilities of this position along with her job description. Customer service is a big and important part of this job. A person with great people skills is essential because we want the residents and customers to have a positive experience when they call or come into City Hall. During elections, this part-time position actually works full-time. They're responsible for putting the poll boxes together. They help with voter registration, absentee ballots, testing our machines. They work as a chief election inspector on election day. They send out correspondence, and they enter and file voter data. Let's go over all the job responsibilities because they are included in your packet, but would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Therefore, I'm requesting approval to fill the Administrative Associate 2 position in the City Clerk's Department.
Is there a motion? A motion by Mr. Hendler, second by Mr. Paschal. Thank you. Discussion? Mr. Wetzel?
Thank you. Is this a full-time or a part-time that you're looking to fill?
This is a permanent part-time position.
So it's a 0.5. Are there any benefits or any type of anything that comes along with it, or is it just strictly the pay?
They do get prorated benefits. Is that right, Jen?
They get prorated vacation and holiday pay. They do not receive health, dental, vision, those types of benefits.
Mr. Wetzel?
Thank you. Is there any chance with potentially some various part-time positions of combining, or are we going to strictly keep this as a permanent part-time?
Well, when the Administrative Associate in the Public Works Department retired, we worked that position. So now that position is 0.5 in the Clerk's Department and 0.5 in Public Works. So we did get that addition of that 0.5 person because we found that that position helps out in the city clerks quite often with all our responsibilities. But this 0.5 position that I'm requesting is strictly clerk's office.
Thank you.
The other 0.5 we share amongst Public Works, Human Resources, Finance, and the clerk's office.
Thank you.
Mr. Barb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Piggybacking on your question there, Tom, that is what happened when we went through that other refilling before, where we did see some synergy in having that individual be half-time with the clerk's office and half-time with Public Works. So definitely cognizant of those kind of opportunities, but we grabbed onto that one. That's really where the best opportunity was.
Any further questions? If not, the motion on the floor is to refill the Administrative Associate 2 position in the clerk's office. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, I believe that's unanimous. My eyes have to jump around the screen to see who's saying what, so excuse me. But okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the
Thank
recommend. You're welcome. To request recommend approval, council approval of the 2021 contract for the Marshfield Job Center presented by Steve Park. Before Steve makes his presentation, I'm going to ask Rebecca to take over the chair. I want to recuse myself on this because I sit on the board of the company we're contract, or not the company, the the government agency that we're contracting with. So Deb, would you please take it there? Not Deb, Rebecca, sorry.
Yes, I got it. Thank you, Chair Wagner. So it looks like this is up to Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I've been here 10 years now. I'm just wrapping up my 10 years of employment with the city. And that entire time, I think we've had a really good relationship with respect to how Job Center is operated. For the last 8 years, we've had a written agreement that's involved the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. They've been a significant player, along with the city and the Department of Workforce Development for the state. For a few of those years, the United Way was involved. They provided some zero rent at their facility on South Central Avenue, but that was a fairly small space. And then when we completed the Library and Community Center project, the folks from the Job Center really saw an opportunity to try and relocate them into that community center. That space is working really well from them. It's on the northeast corner of that building. So anyway, the agreement that you see before you is fairly similar to one that you've seen annually now for 8 years, modified a little bit. United Way is no longer in the mix. It's a three-party deal between the City of Marshfield, North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board, and the Department of Workforce Development for the state. And as been the case in the last several years, the city provides about 75% of the funding for what is a temporary position. The individual there works 18 hours a week, 3 days a week, 6 hours at a time. And so we cover about 75% of that. North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board pays $4,500, or roughly 25%. And the role of the workforce development folks from Madison is really just technical in nature. They provide some phone and computer assistance and cover some of those expenses to make it work for the Job Center. So anyway, it's really similar to past years. We do have one change in the sense that you probably saw it from me. Kate Schaefer has been the longtime person working there, done a marvelous job. She's stepping aside as of December 24th, and she's being replaced by Lori Mazzini, who I think some of you know, and they're overlapping a little bit right now. The only two changes from last year's agreement are one, a very small one. They're requesting to add Christmas Eve as another day that they'll be closed, along with Thanksgiving Day, New Year's Day, and some of those days that they don't see need to be operating on that day. The other change is the amount that the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board pays the city. In this past year, it's been elevated the last couple of years of their 3-year contract by CPI. It's currently $7,459 over the year, or about $621 a month. You may recall that they came to us, I think hopefully I articulated this to you guys before, but they were a little concerned that the renewal of that 3-year agreement was always going to be around our budget time. And there's been talk from time to time about whether or not, there's enough value from Job Center that we want to continue to participate. We always have, but it always seems to come up around the time that our budget is being discussed. They really wanted to get out of that loop. So we agreed to a 3.5-year term on their extension. It began October 1st of this year. It ends on March 31st of 2024, a ways out there. We agreed for the 6 months from October 1 to March 31st to have a very minimal increase from $621 to $625 per month. And the reason that we agreed to it, I think I shared it with the council at the time, is that they had some downtime that they were paying for during the COVID era that they really weren't able to even be using for the most part. So we kind of a break on future rent. But from now on, April 1st will be the trigger date, and there will be annual CPI adjustments. So if you look at the top of the second page, you'll see where it refers to the amount that North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board pays the city. It refers to it as going to $8,100 for the year. That's $7,500 for the space. And now we've incorporated the $50 a month that they've been paying for the last couple of years separately on a memorandum of understanding for cleaning services, for the limited cleaning service that the city provides. So with that in mind, we'd be looking at $8,100 a year from them, which will be increased undoubtedly with CPI every April 1st. So with that in mind, the agreement looks basically the same as in the past, and staff would recommend approval of the 3-party agreement with North Central and the Department of Workforce Development.
Okay. Are there questions from the committee? Or is that a motion, Mr. Hendler?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I have a second from Mr. Peschel. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, anybody want to make a motion?
We already have a motion.
Or Mr. Hendler, you made the motion. Oh, never mind. Never mind. We have a motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could you let the record show that I abstain?
Amy, did you get everybody?
Yep.
Okay. And with that, I will hand it back over to Council Chair Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, that the only thing left is suggested items for future agendas. Anybody got anything? Ron, you got anything? Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Hendler, second by Spiros or Hassel to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Aye.